Hey guys, welcome back to GTM. Today I want to tell you about a product that's brought to you by NRILS. It's called the ZB LITE. It's something you can purchase directly through nrils.com, or you can also check out their Amazon listing where you'll see this advertised as the Camiszon zeroing block. If I said that correctly, hopefully they can correct me if I pronounced that wrong. But this product is going to come in a package just like what you're seeing right here. When you get it, you can open it up. Inside, you're going to have a few necessary things, and I just want to give you a general overview of what's going to be inside. You're going to get a little doodad bag like this. The first thing you'll notice is they do include directions. This is important, guys. Don't toss this, don't throw it away. Since this is a unique device, this is something that's useful, and I'm going to go over this in detail and how you actually apply it, but don't lose this for your own personal use. It's kind of a user manual of sorts. Next thing inside your doodad is actually the product itself. There it is. This is the ZB LITE. So the first time it's really coming to the States, it's new to the country. Installation is going to be really simple. The product can actually be installed two different directions. You can either have it this way, which looks a little more traditional to me, or if you're running like a scout rifle or a PCP rifle, something with short eye relief, you can actually reverse it. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But for my AR setup right here, I'm running a PSA 10.5-inch AR. I'm going to be installing it kind of the standard way that I think it should go. Installation is pretty simple. You're just going to lock it down in your Picatinny. And go ahead and grab the provided Allen keys. And inside, there's pretty much just one that you're going to need. It's one Allen key for installation. All the other Allen keys that are provided are for more technical use of the product. I think 99% of customers out there are just going to need the one Allen key for installation, and you'll be good to go. Everything else is finger adjustable. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in there. And when you're installing something, especially with Allen keys, you don't want to ratchet or tighten down one side all the way and then go to the other side. You want to do it a little bit at a time. So mostly taking, like little half turns. Don't over torque these, especially most of your rails out there. I don't know what kind of rifles you're running, but if you're not running steel on steel, if you're running aluminum on steel or vice versa, you could damage your product or your rifle. So I just say finger tight, especially for the kind of calibers that this mount is rated for. This rifle mount zeroing block is rated for 22 PCPs and also 223. And above that, heavy recoil rifles, we would not recommend that you mount that to that type of rifle. It's going to be right at home on something like this though. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about the product itself. Now that it's installed on here, finger tight. There's dials on the side which are windage and elevation, just like you're probably used to, except for instead of being on top, these are on the sides. They move independently of each other, which is good. On top of the elevation, you're going to see some numbers, just like what you're used to seeing in exposed turret optics, something like this. If you've run that before, that's similar to what you're looking at here. Extremely reliable feeling, very tactile, which is a good sign. The first thing I wanted to check was, do these feel repeatable? Is the mechanism milled properly so that it's going to fall into the slot accurately each time? And I can definitely tell you this actually feels really similar to my Burris XTR turrets, which are known for being very rigid, tactile, and also the repeatability is one of the highlights of the optic. So these feel really good. They're audible. If you can hear that, really, really audible. They're also resettable, and so they do actually have a zero. You'll notice that the lineup mark is on this side, and so if you're running on a PCP or a short eye relief kind of setup, that is where you're going to see that line. Otherwise, you're going to be looking forward of the actual mechanism to find out if you're zeroed on there. You shouldn't have to touch it a whole lot unless you're running this on an optic that you don't plan to dial on, and in that case, you may want to consider running it reverse of how I have it set up right now. So as far as actual elevation, this is kind of the important part. This is the reason most people are going to buy a product like this. This product, believe it or not, has 90 minutes of elevation. That's huge. If you're not a minutes kind of guy, if you like to shoot in mils, I'm a mils guy, 26 mils of elevation. So if I can just give you an idea of how far that might be able to take you. If you're running a standard modern scope, especially something that is dialable, like this is an old school SWFA, really old one, back when it was a mil reticle and minutes turrets. If you're running something like that and you have around 32 mils of adjustment, and you throw it on a base like this that has 90 minutes or 26 mils, you could be running, you know, a holdover reticle. You could be in the neighborhood of 60 to 70 mils. And I just happen to know off the top of my head that with that much elevation, I can actually take my 22 LR to 825 yards, guys. That is insane. And in fact, later in the year, I plan on proving it with a rifle. But pretty cool. That's more elevation than anything else on the market. There's a lot of benefits to that much elevation for modern rifles. All right, so a couple of things that I'm going to do with this is I have this SWFA, and I only had high mount rings available to me right now. I'll probably throw it in a pair of low mount rings later. But I want to start off with the high mount rings, make sure everything cleared good, and it does. It clears more than it needs to, which is excellent. I'm going to tighten those down. And if you've never leveled a rifle before, an optic, a reticle, make sure that you either buy a Wheeler level and then do a gravity line or a plumb line, hang that at some distance, 25 yards, and make sure your reticle is level as well as the rifle, the scope mount, everything. Or you can just buy yourself a couple of cheap levels like this, and as long as it's level, for some people that's good enough. For me, I like to go all the way. I like to do the plumb line, but you can just buy a couple of cheap levels. That's a good addition to your long range shooting setup. For me, I'm gonna set this SWFA on there, and just for now, I'll hand tighten to keep it steady. The safety check was done before we started operating the video. I just want to encourage you, anytime you're going to do something with a rifle, make sure your chamber is empty, ammunition is stored somewhere else. Don't be having that kind of thing accessible or near you. People make mistakes, so I safety checked this before we ever got rolling today. For me, some of the uses and benefits of a system like the ZB LITE Pro is that if you have an optic that has really basic turrets or a basic reticle, maybe no holdovers, maybe nothing milliradian or MOA based, no Horus or H51, you can use a mounting or a zeroing block system like this with a standard scope and do the things that you would with a scope that has lots of elevation built into it with exposed turrets. And so you can take a really standard Bushnell banner, for example, whatever brand you want to think of, something that's going to cost you like $100, and because of the repeatability that it appears these turrets have, you can run this out with knowledge of how many MOA you're dialing out. So you are stuck with MOA if you don't like mils. You know, it's really not that hard to just run Straylock Pro or a program like that, and it'll tell you exactly what your conversion is. If you're used to using mils, run Straylock Pro, and this will get you into MOA, and it'll tell you exactly what you need to dial for your firing solutions. That's something else you can look into, and we'll probably talk about in a later video. So for the scopes that don't have enough elevation, that would be another use. Sometimes guys get an older barrel or just a barrel that has a little cant to it, and maybe the upper receiver or something of that nature doesn't sit perfectly level, and they need more elevation, or especially windage is something I find with old rifles. They're just not lining up, and they run out of elevation or windage in their turrets, and they can't move it any further. So that's kind of problematic. What this would allow you to do is keep your rifle standard. You don't have to bring it into a gunsmith, and you can just use the actual elevation and windage on here to point your optic itself. In fact, if you wanted to, you could throw an optic on here that's unzeroed and just zero the optic using the zeroing base, the zeroing block. That's in fact why it's called the ZB LITE. Problems with other scopes and options that you're thinking, well, why wouldn't you just go with something that has 20 MOA built in or a single piece base like this? There's a few reasons. First of all, I'll tell you, I've run quite a few things like this product right here. The problem with this is this was advertised as a 45 MOA base. You're at a fixed number. You can't adjust that. If it turns out you needed 37 or 48 MOA, you can't change this now. You would have to add another feature, another base, another block to try to get more cant or elevation. Adversely, if you needed less, if that was too much and you're going to bottom out your scope, 45 is too much. On top of that, I measured this. This is not a 45 MOA base. It's actually 50. And so their calibration was wrong when they developed this product. And I'm not going to say the company name, but I'll just tell you there's a few problems with running something like that. On top of that, this is a fixed one-piece mount. You cannot choose where to set your rings. You are limited to what this is right here. That can become a problem when you run into something like this. This is the US Optics 12X. This is a new optic. I have a review coming out on this pretty shortly. This has a relatively small amount of space to work with for rings. And so I have a one-piece mount here. It's not a 20 MOA mount. There's nothing special about it actually. And this has a huge range of elevation, but very limited options for scope. So I really like to run single-piece rings or two-piece rings like this in this system. So with the zeroing block, all my elevation is actually calibrated in the block itself, or extra elevation is calibrated in the block itself. I can set up custom distancing to the rings, which is really a huge advantage that you're not going to have with these single-piece mounts right here. In fact, I have a lot of problems with these. Many times I can't get the height right, I can't get the distance right, the eye relief. These kind of become frustrating after a while to work with unless you have a designed system exactly for that. A lot of times what we're doing, we need something that we can adjust so it's user preference adjustable. And as I previously mentioned, you can also reverse this. So if you're running a scout rifle, which is very popular right now, you can reverse the mounting of the whole thing and it will still function. You can still get elevation and windage out of it and cant it both ways. Okay, it works bidirectionally in that fashion. And in fact, it almost seems like it was set up for the reverse condition. I know a lot of PCP gun shooters, that's why they like this mount, is because it's set up for short eye relief. Guys shooting night vision or something with a scope cover cap that you would look through, the kind that have short eye relief, you get your eye right up to it. They like this kind of mounting block because it allows them to reverse it, put it far out, and get that optic right up to their eye. And so the reversible facet, you're not going to see that in anything else on the market. I'm pretty sure they are the only ones who have that technology and have designed a product to kind of meet that need. One thing I'll throw out there is I can't mention prices because prices go up and down. There may be version 2.0. I don't know what the prices are going to be like as they're importing these into the country, but I can tell you, you can get these for under $200, probably a lot under $200, especially with Black Friday coming up, other deals that they're going to throw out regularly. Check out nrails.com or Amazon. I think there's a deal going on right now at the time of posting this video, in fact. This is way cheaper. In fact, I think it's 4 or 5 times cheaper than any competition. Plus, there's more feature in this unit than there are in the competition. A couple things I'll tell you real quickly. Most people aren't going to use this, but I thought I'd throw it in there just in case you're a person who wants to run it even further, more elevation, more windage, whatever. In the back, they've actually designed a piece here so that you can slip in your smallest provided Allen key, loosen up a screw, and it's going to alleviate a little bit of that tension. You're going to be able to crank on this even further. Okay, and that's what you would have to do if you're one of these ELR shooters who's shooting way out there. Like I shoot my 22 out to 625 pretty often. If I want to take it out to 825 yards, I would just loosen this up. It'll give you a little more elevation, and this retaining spring that's on the back is still going to work just fine. I'm pretty confident about that. It's kind of a proven mechanism, and these have been on the market actually for a few years, and so you're not taking too much of a risk. You can find other people that are using these at extreme distances. All right, guys, I think I gave you enough understanding of the basic product, how it functions, how to install it. Let's stop talking and let's head to the range. And we'll go take this setup right here, we'll zero it, and then run out to 625 yards or a little further and see how this ZB LITE base holds up.